What's good, everybody, and welcome to another video. In this video, you're gonna have to prepare yourself, because we're gonna be corrupting a master sword and the bow of light with the best possible food that you can get. It'll put the best values possible that you can get on it, and make it the best type of gear possible that you can get in Breath of the Wild, using glitches. Now, the setup is going to be long and tedious, so get ready, and make sure you have a lot of patience. I want to give a quick shout out to El Duende and Keenock and everybody else in the Breath of the Wild speedrunning Discord for putting together this method specifically for setting up weapon modifier corruption on the Master Sword and making it easily transferable, with some added tweaks so you can easily use hold Prompt Entanglement. But yeah, let's get into the video. To start things off, we're gonna have to set up our save files. On your file, empty out 8 weapon slots, 5 bow slots, and 4 shield slots. These are the defaults when you start a new game. We also need to remove any spirit orbs from our inventory, as they duplicate when you use inventory slot corruption. If you did apparatus storage like me, and have extra spirit orbs, you have to take your hearts to the statue Hiteno, trade them in, and then get more with the spirit orbs. After you do this, you can make a protected manual save. You do this by setting the Switch's clock to somewhere forward in time. Set it around 2 weeks ahead of time, and save your game. Set your time to be normal again, and close the app. For additional safety, if you have Nintendo Switch Online, disable auto backups, and back up your game now. We're doing this because we're going to be starting a new game on normal mode, and we're going to end up with 2 files on the same mode. So if you want that extra layer of added safety, you can use that. But after all that setup, we can move on to the next step. Once you've got everything set up on your normal mode file, start a new game. There's some things to keep in mind on this new file. You don't want to grab armor, and you don't want to grab any arrows, none of the arrow types. You also never want to manual save, because if you do this, it'll, overwrite your main file, and you'll have to start from your backup. That is if you have one. So don't manual save. Exit the Shrine of Resurrection, and get the Woodcutter's Axe. Get an autosave. Wait about 45 seconds, and then we're gonna run over here and get this Korok seed and another autosave. Make sure you're keeping track of every autosave that you get. Load your manual save and offset 2 slots. If you don't know how to do this, watch any of my previous IST videos. I'm sorry, I don't feel like explaining it again in this one. Once you've made 2 offset slots, reload the first autosave that you got and unequip the axe. Do this 2 more times. For a total of 3 times. Once you do this, load the second autosave you got. Once you load in without pausing, get a 3rd autosave. Now load the first autosave 3 times again. After you've loaded the first autosave 3 times once more, load the 3rd autosave that you got. After all this work, this should have amounted to us getting 999 Korok seeds. From here, just load your manual save. We do this so we have 999 Korok seeds on our manual save, which would get duped had we not done this. If you did all of this correctly, you're ready to move on. If any of that was hard to follow, I'll quickly throw all the instructions on screen. After getting the Korok seeds and loading your main file, make enough offset that covers up to your paraglider, and keep in mind that you will already have 2 from earlier. Now the amount of offset you're going to need here is going to be unique to you, because it's going to be based on how many key items you have, but I'm going to show what it was for me. And remember that IST goes to the left based on how many offset slots you've created. After you've done this, load autosave 3. When you load in, you'll have glider, but it won't be real. To make it real, just get another autosave. After you get this autosave, load it, and the paraglider should be activated. Now just get one more autosave, and then load your manual save. Now it's time to transfer materials. Move all the materials that you want to keep to the back of your materials tab. You do this by dropping them on the ground. If you can't easily do this, sell them each down to 5 or 10. Since we have no food on this file yet, it'll transfer the last 60 materials. I recommend keeping these items, because these materials are the most important to weapon modifier corruption. After you've done this, make more offset slots to cover all your key items, and then 60 extra to cover the entire 3 pages of the food tab. After you create this offset, keeping in mind how much you already generated to reach glider on the previous step, eat all the food in this inventory, load the last autosave you got from your new game, and when you load in you'll have nothing, but just grab a material, and you'll get everything back. After you transfer materials, we're ready to move on. Head to Temple of Time to grab this bow, grab a shield from this Bokoblin camp, and head over to the tower. After you get the tower, run around the plateau grabbing every rune, and if you skip the plateau, don't beat any of the shrines, because we don't want any spirit orbs. Just grab the runes and leave. And now head to Hiteno. You can easily do this with a trick called BLSS, or Zero BLSS. I'm gonna update my tutorial on this soon, so keep a lookout for that, because I didn't cover Zero BLSS in it. But once you get to Hiteno, turn in any spirit orbs you might have, if you weren't able to skip the plateau. Get the shrine, and another autosave. From here we're gonna cook 5 to 10 apples, get an autosave, and load, and repeat these steps until you hit maxed food. After you do this, just load one more time, and this will get rid of any extra materials you have. From here, just get another autosave. Optionally, if you want to, put fairies to the back of your materials tab and eat one meal. From here, you can just load and repeat this over and over again to stack up fairies, as we're going to be heading to Hyrule Castle in a bit. After you have 60 food, and your materials are in a manageable position, head on over to the Korok forest and steal the Master Sword. Optionally, you can duplicate it by transferring your entire inventory to a previous save where you didn't grab it, but I didn't bother doing this. Grab the warp point, teleport away, and head to Hyrule Castle. We're going to be grabbing all the gear that we want to corrupt in the castle right now. I recommend grabbing these items, as they're all relatively easy to find throughout the castle. When you steal the Hylian shield, eat all your food and drop all your materials, and then load a save before you beat the Stalnox. This will duplicate it. This is important because we want an undamaged Hylian shield, and one we can still use. Now we're gonna beat Ganon. Head all the way up to the Sanctum and unequip everything, and you should be able to beat all 4 of the Blights and Ganon with just the Master Sword and the Hylian shield. Okay. Okay. Once you do this, grab the Bow of Light, drop 2 weapons beside you just in case your inventory goes blank when you do this, and drop all your materials, eat all your food, and drop all your equipment, and then load the Sanctum autosave. If your inventory went blank, that's why the 2 weapons are there. Just pick them up and try again. Once you load the Sanctum autosave, you should have stolen the Bow of Light and have all your equipment back, and now we can head back to Hiteno. From here, sell all your gems and expensive items, buy the house and a bow mount, and drop all your materials to be manageable. If you have an inventory filled with regular bows, place the Bow of Light on the mount. Also place your shields on mounts, because we're gonna lose them if we don't, and get an autosave. Then sort your bows, drop all your shields and materials, and eat 1 meal, and then load that autosave. Once you do this, open and close the menu to resync your inventory, and the Bow of Light should be gone. From here, we're gonna make a protected autosave in a similar fashion to how we made a protected manual save earlier. Just fast forward your date ahead in time, but not far enough ahead that it passes over your manual save. Set it a little bit before, and then get an autosave. Reset your time, and now you'll have a protected manual save and a protected autosave, 2 files that you can switch between. Optionally, you can close app here and back up again with Nintendo Switch Online, but you'll have to reset up your offset again, so I don't recommend doing that. But the option is there. Congrats, you can relax now a little bit. You should have a protected autosave with the Bow of Light out of your inventory but stored on a mount, and all the equipment that you want to corrupt. From here, we're going to cook the food of our choice. If you're not going to do hold prompt entanglement, just cook the food that you want and skip the next step. But from here, we need to set up our food tab. So collect some apples, because we're going to need to cook a lot of them, and set up our food tab again. Eat all your food down to page 1 and slot 4. Put 3 Endura carrots on the ground next to a pot or campfire to make them roasted Endura carrots. After you do this, fill your page up until page 3 slot 1 and throw a hearty salmon on the ground and freeze it, and then pick it up. And then fill in the rest of your cooked food tab. If you've done this right, you should have 3 roasted Endura carrots in page 1 slot 4 and a frozen hearty salmon in page 3 slot 1. This is important for later when we do hold prompt entanglement. After you've set this up, drop all your materials and eat 1 food, making sure it's at the end of the list, because we don't want to move the carrots or the salmon to the left at all. From here, we're going to buy a piece of armor and equip it, and then load our protected autosave. If you've done this right, your food should be transferred, and prompt entanglement should be activated. If you're not at 60 meals, cook another apple, and make sure your food tab is still correctly sorted. If it is, we can move on to the next step. Now it's time to cook the god food. Make sure you only have 1 material tab. Also make sure you don't have Bow of Light and all your bow and shield slots are filled. And walk over to the cooking pot. I have fairy tonics in this clip, but imagine those fairy tonics are just cooked apples. Now, there are 2 important ways to reset your cursor in prompt entanglement, and these are: the easiest way is to throw a weapon at the ground and pick it back up. Enter your inventory, and then you should be able to hover over the weapon again. A second form of resetting is hitting left bumper to go to the quest screen, hit minus, plus, and then left bumper. This is another reset. These are useful because it's really easy to get stuck on the right side of the tabs now, as we have a piece of armor equipped on a tab that we can't access. After you learn how to do these, we need to hold the icy salmon. It's gonna sound like I'm telling you a code here, and I'm gonna put the instructions on screen. Also, make sure to reset before you try to hold anything. But to hold the icy salmon, perform a reset. Now, hover the last shield. We're going to hit right on the D-pad, left on the D-pad, right on the D-pad, and left on the D-pad. We're going to sort our shields, and then hit left on the D-pad. After this, we should be hovering an item. Now, we're going to hit right on the right stick 4 times. If you did this correctly, this should put our cursor over page 3 slot 1. If it didn't, reset and try again. If you're sure it's hovering over it, hit A, hit down on the D-pad and hit A again to hold it, and you should be holding the icy salmon. The reason this works is because this has an in-game model. If you hold any of the simmered fruit, or any food item that doesn't have a model, you will crash, so be careful. After you hold this, don't touch anything, and then hit left on the right stick 3 times. Hit left on the D-pad, hover Master Sword, and then reset. Now we need to hold the Endura carrots. Make sure you reset, and then hover the last shield again. To access page 1 slot 4, we need to hit right on the D-pad, left on the D-pad, and then right on the D-pad. And after this, hit the right stick, right, 3 times. If you're sure you're hovering Endura carrots, go ahead and hold them. Now do the same thing where you hit the right stick left 3 times, and then left D-pad, hover Master Sword, reset, and then repeat that step 2 more times to hold the 3 roasted Endura carrots. Once you've held every cooked item with Prompt Entanglement, just hold an Endura carrot and cook the food. This is the God meal. Put it in the last food slot and make sure it's in the last food slot. If your entire food tab is filled with simmered apples, you can hit sort and it'll automatically put it to the last in the list. This is important because this is how you corrupt weapons. And now load your protected autosave. Now we can move on to corrupting weapons with this. Now that we have the God food, sort it once you've loaded in. And we're going to be corrupting weapons first, so drop all bows and shields, and materials. Drop and pick up the item that you want to corrupt, leave the Master Sword for last, ignore what my footage is showing you, and get an autosave. Once you get it, just load it, and you should see that the item will have been corrupted. Now just drop and pick up another weapon and repeat until all the items are corrupted. Now, we need to get the Master Sword in the last slot, so if you have a max weapon inventory, eat 7 meals, get an autosave, and reload. This will put the Master Sword in the last slot. Now sort your food, get another autosave, and reload again. Once you've finished every weapon, get an autosave, and load your protected autosave. Once you do this, drop all your materials, drop your shields, and if you're transferring 5 bows in, eat 5 pieces of food, and don't eat the God food. Now just load the autosave you just got, and that'll transfer in the bows for you to corrupt, repeating the same steps you did earlier where you drop and pick up, get an autosave, and reload. For the Bow of Light, just grab it off the mount. Repeat the same steps over with shields, and once you've corrupted every piece of equipment, drop all your materials. Check how many pieces of gear you have. You should have 8 weapons, 5 bows, and 4 shields, which equals 17. So eat 17 pieces of food, and then load your protected autosave without closing the menu. From here, you can make a new protected autosave if you want, and you can do the same thing by dropping all your materials, eating 17 pieces of food again, and then without pausing, load your main save on normal mode, or exit to main menu, select master mode, and load your main save on master mode to transfer all those weapons and other corrupted pieces of equipment over to your master mode file. Now once you transfer in, get an autosave, and close the game. Once you load back in, check that your inventory is all good and nothing is wrong and you like what you see. If you do, you can make a new manual save, and you can back up your game with Nintendo Switch Online one more time. Alright, and after all that work, it's finally over. We have 2 save files on normal mode, and we have corrupted weapons on our main files, ready for us to use whenever we want. If you had any trouble, I'm probably going to put a frequently asked questions below in the pinned comments, so check that out if you have any trouble, because I know some people had trouble with the last one. Also, if you made it this far into the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. This is by far the video I've spent the most time on and put the most effort into. This is a very complicated chain of glitches, especially if you do Prompt Entanglement. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and a special shout out to El Duende and the Speedrunning Discord for streamlining IST and making this possible. Peace out everybody, see you in the next one.